What's up, everybody? It's Forrest from the Geek's Guide to Enough again, here with another video on a late night when I finally got to sit down. On this channel, I've talked about what made me take money seriously, how we break away from the narratives that keep us stuck, and how we move forward despite our uncertainty. There's a reason I've made multiple videos centered around fear, because for a lot of us, that is the real enemy. We're anxious about the future, inflation, the rising cost of living, a volatile job market, and a government that endlessly prints money, depleting the value of the dollar every year. Has actually been happening for decades and decades, it's just that more and more people are finally starting to notice. And honestly, it's refreshing. And when you combine real economic pressure with a narrative that says you're either a victim of the system or part of the problem, we lose our sense of meaning and purpose. But we as human beings need meaning. We need purpose. And I have a feeling you want both of those things too. If you do, consider subscribing and joining me as we pursue financial peace, simple living, and a stronger mindset. You won't be disappointed. I hope. Now, some things are out of our control. Inflation isn't disappearing tomorrow. In fact, I even got a couple of warnings in 2022 that it wasn't going away anytime soon, and I even kind of scoffed at that. I was a little too optimistic. I thought to myself, oh no, it'll resolve itself like in a couple of months. But that doesn't mean that we can't take back control of our destiny. We need to build a vision for our lives. Having a vision for our money is just as important as being responsible for it. Being responsible with your money brings peace, but having a vision for your money, a long-term direction, brings strength. Without a vision, you're just reacting. With a vision, you're building something special, and you're building something not just for yourself, but also for your family, whether you have one now or you have one in the future. This might sound funny, but I think about the first line of the Sith code from Star Wars. Through passion, I gain strength. Well, in this case, the Sith are actually not wrong. What? When you break free from the I'm just a peasant narrative and form a clear vision for your future, passion follows. And passion fuels discipline. Discipline builds strength. Your mind will start working for you instead of against you. For my wife and me, that vision is clear. We want to establish a foster home. I've worked with foster kids for over a decade. We talked about adoption before we were even married. That means buying a house, getting licensed, building our savings, preparing our lives for children who need stability, just like we do in our finances. There's no way around it. That requires sacrifice. And I know, I'm kind of starting to beat that word into every one of my videos. But if we don't understand and we don't accept the fact that sacrifice is needed in order for us to reach our goals, then we're not going to get very far in this journey, are we? When sacrifice is connected to a meaningful vision, it starts to not feel like punishment after a while. It starts to feel purposeful. Which brings me to the part of the video that I think you were all here for, what the title told you, and that was the one thing that I wish I knew about budgeting. My wife and I were budgeting since we got married. Before that, I used the old school envelope system, literal cash in envelopes. If you don't know the feeling of a crisp dollar bill in your hands, well, that's probably because a lot of people don't carry physical cash in their wallets anymore. It's a shame. And hey, sometimes I don't carry physical cash in my wallet, but I'm working on that. But yeah, I had physical cash in my envelopes. I had physical cash for everything for a while. I even paid physical cash for my rent. So I don't think there's a single digital footprint of mine that I left when it came to the time that I was renting my first apartment, which is kind of funny when you think about it. But I kept cash for everything else, like the phone bill. I would walk into US Cellular and pay the phone bill with cash like a chump. I had cash for Uber rides, for eating out, for all these different things so that I can keep track of where my money was going and how much I had left before I just needed to call it quits. Funny thing is, if even you don't feel like you can use a budgeting app because of the money that it costs to use one every year, you can start with the envelope system. It can't cover everything. Some things are just paid digitally, like your utility bill, but whatever you can use physical cash for, please do it. It's a very effective way of keeping track of your money and knowing where it's going. And it doesn't even have to be forever. It can be a way to teach yourself and to train yourself to keep track of every dollar. Here's the thing though about what my wife and I were doing. We were budgeting, but we weren't really planning. We had limits in categories, but we made exceptions a lot, especially eating out. One night I went to Checkers for the burger, then crossed the street to McDonald's for the fries while my wife was at work that one evening. Weirdest combo I ever had. Never did it again. And like I said, there's something that I learned recently that I wish I knew sooner. Your budget should change every single month. I thought you were supposed to keep it mostly the same. That's what made you a responsible budgeter, if that's a word. That's what made you good at it, right? Here's the problem. We live in an ever-shifting economy. The price of things always go up, with some rare special cases. Eventually, the numbers in our budgets stopped reflecting reality. But unfortunately, instead of changing it, with the exception of one or two categories, we kept going that way. We would go over budget because we almost never adjusted the plan to match the month. And every month is different. Doctor visits, car repairs, new subscriptions, equipment for making a YouTube channel. These all contribute to unpredictable changes to our monthly expenses, and we need to plan those out at the start of each month. If you don't sit down and rebuild your budget yourself at the start of the month, you're going to find out later that you don't have as much money as you think you do. I found that some budgeting apps make this strategy of sitting down every month and going over your budget harder than it should be. One thing that I noticed in our budgeting app that we had for a while before we switched was that it would carry all of the leftover money that you had in every category from the previous month and just moved it over into the next one, making it look like you have more than you actually do, as if you're saving up money in every single category. You are not. If you're not intentionally saving up money in that category, then whatever money is carried over into the next month and then that new month adds onto it, you don't actually have that much money for that particular category. I promise you. Unless you were intentionally saving up to do this, I don't think you actually have $400 or $500 to eat out in a month. At least we don't. A good budgeting system lets you start fresh each month and helps you see one thing. Are you spending more than you make? I know. We all love that phrase. We heard it from people, from financial experts that we don't like, but the truth is, that's just reality. To spend less than you make every month is a responsible thing to do and will help you stay ahead of the game. My takeaway for you is don't budget without a vision. It's important to have a budget. It's important to know what your outlook on the month is. And it's important to have that vision. This is part of how we fight back to take control of our future and our destiny. If we can't help ourselves in our own homes, we're not going to make much positive change outside. Like I said before, my wife and I want to buy a home, become licensed foster parents, and reach single income stability within 2 years. We're mapping out a clear blueprint to get there, and I'm actually planning on documenting that 2-year journey for paid tier subscribers on my Substack, which will detail our plans to achieve that goal and whether or not we're successful in getting there. If you'd like to join us on that adventure, link in the description below. You're going to hear me hammer this point home a lot, and I mentioned this earlier in the video, but make the sacrifices necessary to achieve your own vision. Like with your mind, this is a way to show your money that you're the one in control, not the other way around. If you already have a vision of your own, I'd love to read about it in the comments below. We're doing this together, both you and I. I almost did you and I. If this video helped you think differently about money and meaning, like and subscribe, and if you're interested, you can check out my novel The Glass God from Amazon, also a link in the description below. See you guys next time.